All right, guys, back to you with another whiteboard video. Today, I'm gonna be going over the 2 questions I added to my discovery process that 2x my sales. It's the criteria question and the timeline question. If you hit both these questions at the right time in your sales process, it's going to equal more money, more commissions, more sales. So for sake of simplicity, I'm trying to make this video quick so you guys can just add these questions in your discovery process and start making more sales. So I'm not gonna be going over like how you should be setting the frame and how you're supposed to be building a gap. I think you guys, if you're already in sales, this is kind of more for like people who are already on an offer, they're already, taking sales calls, but you're missing some deals because you're not asking these type of questions in this type of way. And you're not really able to find like the real truth or really get to the core of like why your prospects are even here with you on the call. And you're kind of going through the motions. You're hitting all your discovery questions, but you're still getting the same objections at the end of the call. So both these questions come after you've already got an idea of like, okay, their current situation, right? Why are they on the call? Why do they want help? They're stuck, they're bottlenecks, whatever the case is. If you're selling B2C, you're selling like coaching, mentorship, whatever the case is, you've already sold them on the opportunity, you know what they're on the call for, and also you've got an idea of like what their goal is with the opportunity, how much money they want to make, or whatever you're selling, right? On the B2B side, you discover their bottlenecks in their business, you discover what their goals are with their business and what they kind of need help with, things like that. So the criteria question, this comes after you've already kind of built that gap, so you know where they're currently at, you know where they want to be at. But instead of just kind of asking like very basic questions, we're like, okay, so you're looking for this help. So like, what do you kind of need from us, whatever the case is? It's getting very specific. So like the more specific questions that you ask, the more specific answers you're gonna get. And this criteria question is gonna give you the exact answer to your actual pitch. So your discovery, if you're already in sales, you should know this, but your discovery should create a problem that your pitch will end up actually having the answer to, and you should be able to customize and personalize that pitch based on the problems that they tell you about. Right? And based on the problems that you actually discover and dig up within your discovery process. So the criteria question is not just like, cool, man, so like what exactly kind of need from us to actually get there? Like, what are you looking for, from a mentor to get there? It's a very specific question. So it'll sound something like this. You've already built the gap over the cases. Let's say you're selling an opportunity. For sake of simplicity, let's say you're selling, a remote sales course. Fuck it, why not, right? Instead of just being like, cool, man, so you wanna increase your commissions, like what are the main things you kind of need help with? You'd actually ask a very specific criteria question. So you'd be like, cool, man, so it sounds like you're doing about 2 to 3 grand a month in commissions. You obviously said you want to get to a better offer, get to 10, 12 grand a month in commissions. So I guess like what specifically do you actually need from us to actually make that happen? Or like what's kind of the main boxes you need checked off? What are the main things when you actually think through like, okay, if I'm gonna actually invest into something that's gonna give me the result that I'm looking for, what specific things, even prior to jumping on this call, we're kind of running through your mind, just so I can make sure that we're even here and we can actually give you the right thing that you're looking for. Right? Or if you're selling B2B, right? Let's say you're selling marketing services to a business owner. It's like, cool, man. So, I know you've been through a few different marketing vendors. You've tried and invested in a few different things. The last thing I want to do is, essentially just kind of go through and pitch you the same thing that you've been sold before and it didn't work. So like what specific things, just kind of understanding what happened before, are you kind of looking for that you're hoping for that is different? The main things that you're hoping for that we actually do will get you the result. Like what are the main boxes that you need checked off to actually make you feel like this is the real thing that's going to get you there? That's the criteria question. And I know it's kind of long and it sounds kind of wordy, but it gives you a very specific answer, because when you ask someone like, what's the main boxes? What's your criteria? What are you actually looking for out of a vendor, out of a partner, out of a mentor, out of a program to help you get to your goal, right? They're going to give you specific answers that you're going to jot down in your mind mentally that you're going to obviously personalize within your pitch. Now, right after your criteria question, you're gonna get right into your timeline question. So this is actually like how you frame the why question. And if you've tried to do the whole thing where it's like, okay, well, why now? So, you mentioned you're stuck, you're unhappy, you're not making the money you wanna make, or hey, you mentioned your business has been stuck, you've had this problem, you've had this bottleneck, you've worked with all these different mentors, blah, 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 different marketing vendors. Why now? And you probably feel the sales resistance, right? When you ask someone, well, why now? Or like, why do you really want this, right? Or what specifically, like these questions, framing the why question and also framing the timeline question to make sure that you're preventing uncertainty and you're preventing urgency is going to actually be able to build you the ammunition that you need to handle that objection later on the call, because the objections will still come, right? There's no such thing as no objections. Like you're always going to have at least one smoke screen objection that you have to be able to identify and reframe to get the sale. That's why we are needed. And people don't just sign up, through a web page, right? Selling high ticket, they obviously need to speak to someone. This is really to build ammunition to actually handle the objection at the end of the call. So the timeline question, again, instead of why now is, okay, cool, man. So it sounds like you're kind of looking for X, Y, and Z. I guess as far as your timeline goes, if you do find a program or partner that does kind of help you with this, help you with this, help you with that, right? Say back what they just told you from the criteria question. As far as your timeline goes, if everything kind of makes sense, it checks those boxes, and of course it makes sense financially, and of course it makes sense numbers-wise, how soon are you looking to get the ball rolling? Now, it's important that you ask this right before you transition and label them with the problem that you're going to solve for them within your pitch. That's the key, is you build up the current, you build up the pain in their current situation, the doubt, right? They have doubts that they can't do it on their own. You get an idea of, what else have they tried, their past experiences. You get an idea, obviously you get real with what their goals are. What do they need from us? What are the main things? Right off of the criteria question, when you go right into the timeline question, that's normally when you're going to get the man, ASAP, yesterday, last week, man, last year, right? That's where you're going to get the ammunition that you need, where at the end of the call, if you're like, hey, man, everything sounds good, but I'm just not ready yet, you can refer back to them, what they told you. Right, cool. Well, before we jumped into prices, I know you mentioned that this was kind of checking all your boxes, and you also mentioned, that you guys were looking to get the ball rolling as soon as possible if you did find that solution. So, I guess what's specifically making you hesitate now? You're going to really have the ammunition to handle that objection at the end of the call, since you asked and framed the timeline question better than just okay, well, why now? Hey, can I get a yes or no at the answer of the call? We don't really want any maybes. It's 2026 now. Prospects are sophisticated the same way that you guys watching this video, if you're looking for, sales mentorship, for example, since I do, obviously help people with this, I'm not going to sit here and try to act like I don't. You're sophisticated. You already know that there's going to be a sales process involved. People have been through sales processes. People have been burnt. They've been through programs. They've went through mentors. They've went through different marketing vendors if you're selling B2B, for example. They've been through it. So if you don't understand how to frame certain questions in a way that makes it feel more conversational, and it's just very to the point, it's the same script they've heard from the past 2 to 3 years, you're going to get a lot of surface level answers, and you're not going to be able to get the ones that are actually going to give you the real answers. On top of that, I've mentioned framing the why question, which kind of comes along with the criteria, is instead of asking someone let's say they give you their goal of 10, 15K a month if you're if you're selling them, make more money off, or whatever the case is, right? Instead of just asking them well, why, right? Why that goal? Frame it better, right? Hey, man, so you mentioned you want to make 10 grand a month. I guess just for me, just kind of help me get a better understanding. It sounds like you said that number very quickly, so you must have thought about it before. What specifically changes? Does 10K a month mean hey, man, bills aren't really a concern anymore? You're able to kind of save a little bit of money. Or is 10K a month where you're actually able to see things a little bit, open up a little bit more? You're able to travel, you're able to do some of the things that you've always wanted to do. What specifically kind of changes day to day if you're making 10 grand a month? That's going to give you a lot deeper answer, right? If you're selling business to business, if you're selling to a business owner and they're like, hey man, I'm at 100 grand a month, I want to go to $300,000 a month. And some of them are well, why 300 grand a month? If you ask a business owner, why do they want to make more money? They're probably going to look at you like you're crazy, right? Dude, come on, I'm a sales guy, I run my own business. But if you were to frame it better, where it's cool, man, okay, so 300 grand a month, obviously that's a pretty big jump from where we're at, right? You're talking about 3x'ing the business. So it's 300 grand a month mean hey, you don't have to worry about payroll. You don't have to worry about, employees leaving. You don't have to worry about certain things like that. Or it's 300 grand a month where okay, you're able to actually grow, add more employees, not have to worry about payroll, not have to worry about, different taxes and overhead that comes with running a business. What specifically changed at 300 grand a month? Now they're going to give you the right why question, right? And really that even comes during more the desire goal stage before you get into the criteria and the timeline question. But if you can kind of frame questions and pre-frame questions better and more of a conversational tone, kind of like how I'm speaking to you guys in this video, it's going to make your sales process a lot easier, get you the real answers, which is then going to allow you to actually earn the right to label them with a problem which comes after your discovery process that you can solve. And your pitch is going to become much more personalized and much more custom to them, making it feel like the right decision, which is going to obviously lead to more money. So add these 2 questions to your sales process. I promise it'll help you close more deals. And I will see you guys on the next one.
1 is the loneliest number that you'll ever do. 2 can be as bad as 1. It's the loneliest number since the number 1.